There's no stopping Steven in his empty chair.
No, he feels no fear and no remorse.
Prozac, when did you leave the GP?
Like 4?
Okay. People just don't even
Hey.
say bye anymore. They just leave.
Oh.
Yeah, sorry. I had to
Oh.
say bye to the other 2,000 people
Oh.
in the tournament.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Oh, we made it to loading video.
Impressive.
There's no legacy Greg bad.
Yeah, I know.
Greg.
I can't use the kazoo sound effect. I'm really sad. I was really happy with how that went last week.
Could use the kazoo sound effect somewhere. Just like, all over
just
the
throw it
place.
in.
Yeah, you're in there.
All right,
Lot
we're
with
gonna
troll.
run the refresh. We're gonna see if that gets us there. Oh, it did.
Did it.
Yeah. See everyone. Okay. Well, hello and welcome everyone to Gamestate episode 30. It is Monday, February 25th. Is that correct? I think it is. I think it is Monday, February 25th. And today we are going to talk about GP Charlotte and GP Canada, or GP Quebec City, depending on who you are. I am your
Canada's a large
host,
country.
Adam. The winner is you, Ragsdale. And with me, as usual, are Stephen Flavo, Poker Pro and Magic Enthusiast,
Hello.
and Cedric Phillips, Professional Magician.
Hi, everybody.
And filling in for the absent Glenn Jones, we have the wonderful and lovable Adam Prozac.
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
That was very suave. Thank you. The first
You're
thing
welcome.
The first thing we're going to talk about is Grand Prix Charlotte, which was a massive event. It was populated by almost 2,700 people, 2,693 players, and it was won by Frank Scarron with a limited deck. I'm not going to go into fantastic detail, but was a limited Grand Prix. Both Adam and Cedric were in attendance, battling solo to varying degrees of success. And what we're going to talk about in general is actually the size of this event and what it means for Magic events in the future. Obviously, this was the largest Grand Prix that has ever been held, the largest single Magic event, I think, of all time. And it was run a little bit differently by necessity. There were 3 cuts instead of the standard 2, just to day 2 and top 8 are the standard issue, and 17 rounds instead of 16, and so there was a little bit of sort of shifting of how the tournament had to be held just to cope with the huge number of players. So I want to know if you guys think the structure of the Grand Prix is going to have to change as we get larger and larger events, and what this means for competitive Magic in general, and then we'll sort of spiral out from there. Cedric, give us your wisdom.
Steven couldn't take it. Oh, he can take it now. He's back. Okay. Yeah. Steven, we're glad you could be here for this. It's kind of funny that you bring this up because Adam and I, Mr. Prozac, we had like a brief discussion about it while we were at the tournament. But as far as tournaments being this large moving forward, obviously I think it's like super good for the game to have this many people coming out to these tournaments and stuff like that. But at the same time, some things definitely need to evolve with how tournaments are run. The tricky part about that is that trying to do such evolution is an interesting thing to try to come up with on how to go about doing it. And I know that Adam and I, in between, like after a round, we're talking about doing some brainstorming and stuff like that, and it's kind of hard just to figure out what to do. You want this many people at a tournament. I know that some people just don't think that it's logistically possible to have 2,700 people and be able to accommodate them and be able to like run a good tournament and be able to make sure that all the pros can get their pro points in a reasonable way, and how many buys we're going to have, all of that stuff. And I don't really believe that to be the case. I think it just takes a lot of thought on how to go about doing it. It's certainly not easy. I wish I had a solution for you and we could fix this problem very quickly, but I mean, there's definitely some things that need to be, people need to sit down and kind of hash some things out and figure out what they want Grand Prix to accomplish. Do they want them to be this large? Do they want them to be smaller? Because by all accounts, in my opinion, I think this Grand Prix was a resounding success. I think it was a success, period. I mean, some people are unhappy, like professional players are unhappy with how many people were there. I think it's unreasonable. But at the same time, like, it's kind of funny to me that, like, there's some people who are, like, so mad that there are so many people there. So therefore, it's kind of hard to, like, get the points. And then you just see, like, Ben start top 8 again. So, like...
I mean, It was a limited event. Ben Stark was in attendance.
Yeah,
and,
so like how like how hard is it? Like Ben doesn't ever lose a limited. Doesn't matter if there's 300 people or 2,700 people. So I mean, it's a fun thing to think about. This is a very very good problem to have, which is what Patrick Chapin wrote about on Star City today. This is like best case scenario. When there's this many people coming to like tournaments. This is fantastic, and we just have to figure out a way to work ways around it. So.
All right, Prozac, do you have words of wisdom about the structures of GPs to come?
Yeah, I think it's incredible. Like, I had a great time at this Grand Prix. There's so many people. It was so awesome to see so many people, like, come out to play in the same tournament. And obviously, our current methods of running tournaments is not going to work if things continue to be this large. And I would even say that, like, this is probably just like a huge wake-up call, because they probably didn't work in Europe either. Like, they had the whole they broke up a thing into 2 tournaments just for software purposes. But like, yeah, it was just like almost overwhelming to see, like, all right, so we walk into the hall on Friday and like the hall is enormous, and then come Saturday at 11 a.m. when the tournament hasn't started yet, the hall didn't seem so big, even though it was.
Yeah.
And with like in terms of the pro players, I actually do not care too much about like how hard it is. It's supposed if like, for example, like Brian Kevler was like livid that he got eliminated at 8 a.m. And we could talk about the tournament structure. That was just like a one-time reactionary thing. But like, yeah, in terms of if it's hard to get pro point, if it was easy to be a Magic pro, everyone would do it. So stop complaining about it being hard. You don't just get to like say, "Hey, I'm a pro Magic player," and like you get paid or whatever. You get a month. You have to actually like be good at Magic. Be better than. It's a lot harder now because Magic's a lot more popular. Like, I'm sure it was much easier to be an NBA superstar in 1950 when people didn't care about it. Like, that's what we're getting. And obviously, like, so like as the game grows, it's going to be harder to like be a professional, and so I think like with the Grand Prix structure, we want to focus, like Cedric. We want to focus on how to run a tournament with 3,000 people in it.
So you think like as the audience ramps up for Magic the Gathering, so should the difficulty level for being in the professional scene?
Well, just naturally it will. It doesn't have to. It just will, because if there, it's going to be a lot harder to top 8 like these events when there are 2,700 people in them. And that just can't be avoided. But in terms of things that we can do is like we can figure out a way to run a tournament, make everybody like make it reasonable to run a 3,000 person Grand Prix event. Like let's be true. Like I'm not gonna. I think Star City did a wonderful job this weekend, but their job was basically impossible. Right now, we just the way Magic tournaments are being run, it's not feasible to have 3,000 participants in them. So, and I don't have answers yet, but like the question needs to be asked and needs to be addressed on how do you run a how do you run a tournament with 3,000 people.
All right. I think we'll come back for a couple questions, but I want to give Steven the chance to speak before we do such a thing. Steven, do you have any thoughts about the future of the gigantic Grand Prix? You're muted.
One thing that is immediately clear to me, and like verbally clear to you the second time around, is that as players, like as the number of players at the event increase, the number of people working on all of the infrastructure needs to increase. Like, possibly not even at the same ratio, possibly like exponentially larger than the player increase. And I'm not sure that that's happening, and that I think is the first thing that I would like to see happen. I think it's not that you want to write more feature matches per round or anything, but you need to have more people there to parse through the standings or help the coverage guys or be out on the floor finding stories, stuff like that. So I want to see that happen. And I don't think this is that huge a problem as far as, like, I think if we provide the infrastructure, the current model should work pretty well. I just think that it's a matter of providing the infrastructure becoming much, much harder as you have many, many more players playing. Eventually, the infrastructure will break, but I think for now, even with almost 3,000 people, it's still a decent way to run a tournament.
All right. One thing that I want to make clear, I don't know if everyone listening is going to know, the specific issue that I think Adam listed with Kibler was that after the day 1 cut, there were 9 rounds on day 1 and X and 2 or better made it. There was a one sort of special round extravaganza in round 10 at the beginning of day 2, after which if you had 3 losses, you were eliminated from the day 2 event, which resulted in obviously a lot of people playing a single round at the very beginning of the day 2 of the tournament and then not getting to play further, which is obviously a bit of an awkward spot. But I want to ask you guys specifically, do you think it's a problem that do you think it's a problem from Wizards' end to have gigantic tournaments, or a problem from the TO's end, or like both of them need to look at it, or neither of them need to look at it? Like, where do you think responsibility lies for these tournaments, assuming they continue to get larger going forward, which is the trend we've seen in the past?
So I guess
go ahead, Seth.
I guess your question, Adam, I just want to confirm, is just like, is it someone's fault that these tournaments are big?
Well, no, I've seen people suggest in the chat, like, maybe we need to run multiple Grand Prix in the same geographical area to have people go to different points. I'm not trying to throw blame around, I'm just saying, like, if you're looking for solutions, do you look from Wizards' end? Do you try and hold multiple events to create, like, multiple places for people to go? Or do you need, like, to beef up the TO presence and maybe approach it differently? I'm not trying to say someone did poorly and we need to blame that person, but how do you guys look at going about creating a solution to this?
I think like creating a solution to this is basically just like, you just have to kind of ramp things up from a like tournament organizer standpoint. I think that this tournament is a pretty special, like, circumstantial tournament for a couple different reasons. One, I think that this tournament did so well is because Star City Games advertised the living hell out of it. And that's something that you don't really see Wizards of the Coast doing for their Grand Prix. If you didn't know about this tournament, like, from just like either like going to StarCityGames.com, where it's on the front page of their website every single day as the first scrolling thing, or like if you follow anyone on Twitter, like, I tweeted about it a lot, or like anyone with like a relevant name, Kibler, Conley Woods, anybody, were just like, I'm going, here's the information. It was borderline impossible not to know this tournament existed. And then, obviously there's the allure of it, with the Gold Rush and a lot of the tournaments, and the pros are going to be there, the meet and greet with Kibler and Jerry and all that stuff. There was just a lot of reason for people to go to this tournament. As a result, like, I think that's part of the reason the attendance was so high. Now, the interesting thing about this tournament, too, is that because SCG has their own tournament series, and SCG, the Open Series, it's almost like a blessing in disguise that the gigantic Grand Prix that ended up being 2,600 people was being run by them, because I think of anyone who's well-equipped to run a tournament this big, it was only them. If, like, any other TO happened to stumble across a tournament that was this big, it would have been a nightmare, like, without question. But because SCG runs a tournament every single week, like, once we actually got the product to start doing sealed, it started running like clockwork. Like, turnaround time was fast, just like it is at every single SCG Open Series. Everything, there was no confusion on what was taking place. Regis Seal Deck, you have 20 minutes to do that. 30 minutes to build your sealed deck. Like, here's where the lands are. Here's where everything is to go. Then everything just started running like clockwork. There was no confusion. They figured out how many rounds they needed to run, which was the 9 on day 1, plus the goofy, like, round 10 cut, then round 11, then drafting 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. They explained why they needed to do this, what time people needed to be there, like, all of that stuff. So, basically, what you see there is people who understood, like, what they needed to do and how to adjust on the fly, and that just comes from running so many events. So, basically to answer your question on, like, is there, like, something that needs to be done from, like, a Wizards perspective or, like, a TO perspective, this just means that tournament organizers need to step their game up, because it's not going to be 500, 600 person Grand Prix anymore. It's going to be, 1,200, 1,500 Grand Prix that are going to start to be the minimum that these tournaments are going to be. And as a result, you're going to have to hire more staff. You're going to have bigger convention centers, be more organized, be prepared for large attendance, and be able to adjust on the fly. Again, like, if this was being run, the only other tournament organizer I'm confident would have had no problem with this is Steve Porter. Anybody else that had this event, I guarantee this would have been a unmitigated disaster. Twitter would have been going psychotic, myself included. I can think of a lot of tournament organizers in the United States, because I've been playing Magic way too long and I know them all, where first of all, they would not have had a big enough room, because they would have undershot their forecasting for the tournament and everything. And then it would have been like, okay, like, we need to get another room, and it would just been like a nightmare. Maybe they would have to, like, turn people back. I don't know. But, like, especially, like, something as simple as what SCG did, Adam, I know you weren't there, is because they had to do the goofy thing with round 10, anyone who actually got eliminated for round 10 got to play in win this 10K tournament on Sunday for free. So if you're one of the kibblers who got colded on round 10, they were like, all right, well, we've got this win a trip to Miami tournament, which was going to be a 5K, that they increased to a 10K because there were so many people there, and the people who got, unfortunately got colded in that round, which, normally wouldn't take place, so, like, you guys can go play for free. Like, obviously, it's, you're not going to be happy getting knocked out of the Grand Prix, but, I mean, they could have just been like, sucks, and then just moved on. But instead, they doubled the price of their tournament and let people play for free. So it's just stuff like that where you realize that tournament organizers just really need to step their game up, and understand that, like, this is just what's going to be the norm. So, they're not going to hand all the tournaments over to SCG to run. But at the same time, like, I think it's just tournament organizers are just going to have to do a better job now. I mean, people go to school to do event planning. So, I mean, it can be done. It's just a lot more difficult now.
So you think, just sort of cliff notes, you think in future, same ball game, slightly larger scale?
Yeah, absolutely. They're just, the GPs moving forward are just going to be bigger. That's just what's going to happen.
All right. Adam, agree or disagree? Same ball game,
Yeah,
slightly
no,
larger
I
scale?
agree. That's Cedric made a good point, and I forgot about it. But this was actually awesome. Like, so Star City realized that, okay, we can't run 10 rounds on day one. We're already starting, like, round one, I believe, or we didn't sit down to build our sealed decks until around noon. They were just having difficult putting that many chairs up. And it just took, like, a long time to realize, oh crap, we have this many people. Like, even, like, the night before they knew, and they still didn't have time. Like, they had, like, something like 1,800 players registered at midnight on Friday night. And they knew, and they just, like, worked as much as they can to get it done. And okay, at the end of it, we're just like, all right, we're gonna have to do this stupid thing that we don't want to do. We're gonna have to do this 1-round cut. And they did it, and they're like, all right, what can we do to make this not as brutal as it's going to be? And then so they gave out the free entrance into their major Sunday side event. And their major Sunday side event, this Miami 10K, it was a 5K, and, like, I could imagine another organizer just, pocketing the extra 5K or whatever. Or not even an extra, like, just saying, all right, we have this 5K and this is what we're going to do. You know what I mean? Whereas Star City is, like, on site, it was like, hey, we want you guys to come out and still play, and just offer the extra 5K. And that they probably made money off of making things better for the players. Like, the Miami 10K had, like, 600 some players in it. And it was just, like, almost as big as these other standard Grand Prix. for a side event. It was just out of control, like how many people there were. And this is where I kind of disagree with one of Cedric's point. I don't know if things continue to grow that we can continue doing the same type of tournament structure. We might have to just totally change. Like right now, you play in any Magic tournament you play all round, and then you have to wait until every single other person in that Magic tournament is done playing their round before you can play your next round. Once you get up to a certain number of people, I don't know where that point is, but I'm also not, a professional organizer. Once you get to a certain point, that's just not going to be feasible. Like you can't have one match holding up 4,000 people, 5,000 people. Like who knows where this is going to grow? So like I think you'll see in the next couple of years if Magic continues its like fantastic rate of growth, you're going to see a significant change to the to a large tournament structure. And one thing I've heard, another thing I've heard a lot of people say, reducing the number of people at any one event is not the answer. You don't want things to not be as popular as they can be.
All right, Steven, do you think the event structure needs to change, or do you think it's the same general structure just on a larger scale going forward?
I agree 100% with the idea that you need to be repairing people before the entire round is over. Like Wizards is so bad at this that you cannot run an 8-man on Magic Online and be paired against your next opponent when like you're both already finished with your matches. You have to wait, and it's a giant time sink just in an 8-man right there. But at an event this size, it's absolutely gigantic. And you can run it with identical pairings to how you would pair had you waited for the entire round to end. It's just a matter of making the information available to players when their next round match is ready to be played and expecting them to follow up on that. So I think that that's definitely something that's like an interesting idea to look into. You have problems with like you have to independently keep time for rounds. Presumably you like stagger the starts of the round and stuff like that, which is going to be more difficult, but it's such a massive time saver. Absolutely massive. That's like one of the biggest problems I have with Magic right now, is that I cannot play my next match when it's clear what my next match is going to be already. So, can you guys hear
to
my
further
cat?
your point,
again?
I probably spent approximately between the time between 10 a.m. the announced start time and the time I dropped from the tournament, I think in round 6. I believe I played approximately 15% of the time. Like, and I was just sitting around the other 85% of the time.
Right. I mean, would you classify that as standard at a large Magic event? I mean, I know you're not new to the scene, so.
Right. Currently, right. Basically, the larger the tournament it is, the lower and lower percentage that it's going to be. And at some point, it's not an acceptable percentage. Yeah, like, we're used to it, but why do we have to be? If there is something better that we can do, we should do it.
And
Yeah,
I just
go
want to
ahead.
interject real quickly for those not viewing live. That is in fact Steven's cat making adorable noises into his microphone. For those of you not aware, so that's what's happening there.
Now, there's the cool thing about this tournament that actually took place, and this is what my article is probably going to be about this week, is there were a lot of positives to come out of it, just as far as like how tournaments are moving forward and evolving. And the funny thing here is like Prozac, you're like responsible for just one of the changes that actually took place in the tournament, which was the Twitter pairings,
Oh,
where
yeah.
like before, if you guys don't know this, like at the SCG Open Series, they put the pairings up on Twitter. So your traditional match tournament, you go up to a board, you have to stand on a line, and it's not efficient at all to wait in that line, and then have to go over to where you're gonna go play. That's just how Magic has been done. They print out the pairings, you go up to your board and whatever, and now they can
You get to surf through all the players, which is super fun.
Yeah, and now it is 2013, and we have this cool thing called Twitter. and you can, so they tweet the pairings. And so at the Grand Prix of 2,683 people, they were like, yeah, you can't do Twitter pairings. And Adam put out a tweet. He's like, "This is dumb. Why can't we do that?" And SEG was just like, like it's not up to us. It's up to the guys at WotC. It's not our call. And then Adam put out a tweet to Helene, and he's just like, "This is stupid." And then 2 hours later, it's like, "Okay, we have pairings on Twitter now." So,
yeah. Yeah, it made no sense. And I want to give props to whoever, if it was Helene or anybody else at Wizards, I want to give props to realizing, listen, this could be, a huge clusterfuck. Surfing through 1,000 players to find my name is just not cool.
Yeah.
And whoever made the policy is stupid, and whoever lifted the policy and allowed Twitter pairings to be used is awesome. And big thanks. It really, really helped.
Yeah. So there was that one. The second one that was a huge deal to me was the pre-registration, which for some reason this just never took place at a tournament before or something, where you could just pre-register for the tournament online. So on Friday, I was just hanging around the site. We went to watch a basketball game and go eat dinner, and I realized I was like, oh, I didn't remember to sign up because I'm stupid. And my friend's like, well, you can just pre-reg on the site. And I'm like, really? I can just go do that in my hotel room right now? They're like, yeah. So I go to my hotel room, and I go to the gpcharlotte.com website, and I click a mouse 3 times, and I'm registered for the tournament. And then when I got there Saturday morning, and I saw a line, I can't even explain how long it was. It was just completely unreasonable. Of the people who just got there that day to sign up for the tournament. I was like, okay, this makes things just incredibly easy. I can just click 3 times and I'm registered for the tournament. And there wasn't any I was worried that I asked some of the people working for Star City, I'm like, do I have to go up there and sign something or let them know I pre-reg? And they're just like, no, it's done. You're in the tournament. I'm like, oh, okay, that's good. So that's something that should be happening at every tournament. And then I think the big one that didn't happen to this tournament, but it's probably going to happen moving forward because obviously our tournaments are getting bigger, is this GP was supposed to start at 10. And I think that all tournaments they're just better off starting at 9 and potentially 8 a.m. 8 a.m. might be a little too early, but 9 a.m. I think is when you need to start your tournament because if you just look at the worst case scenario of either you're starting super early, but then you get to leave and go eat dinner when restaurants are still open and stuff like that, versus letting you sleep in and then getting done at midnight or 1 a.m. like we did today, or like we did on Saturday. You'd rather just start the tournament early and then at least we'd be done with round 10 or round 9 or whatever by 10 or 11, something that is a little bit more manageable than 12:30, 1 o'clock, which is what time we got out of there on Saturday. So I think those are simple changes that just need to be implemented.
Right, and day 2s generally start pretty early, right?
Yeah, this one started at 8 because they had to do the goofy round. But I think that day 2 should start at, I think 9 o'clock for both days is completely reasonable to start.
In general, Grand Prix Day 2s are pretty short.
Yeah.
I remember I made Day 2 at Grand Prix Indianapolis in December, and we did. You're
normally out at 5, right?
I think even earlier. It was just very easy, very quick. And it should be because it had a small number of people, 100 some people, only 6 rounds and 2 drafts. Everybody theoretically knew what they were doing. So, and but yeah, Day 2s on Grand Prix should be relatively short. And obviously this one wasn't as short because they had to run let extra people into Day 1.5.
Welcome to the gray zone.
Yeah.
That's exactly where we were. Yeah. It's kind of funny, if I was Kibler, I understand why Kibler's mad or whatever, because if I think that once everyone heard that, they're the first thought that comes to your mind is yep, I don't want that to be me. No one wants to be that person at that tournament, but it's got to be somebody, and it's just the situation we're presented in. He was just, I feel like he was unreasonably upset given the circumstances.
I completely agree with you, Cedric.
You're not.
I thought Brian's was completely unreasonable about the whole thing. Sorry for being so popular and making Magic people want to come to a Magic tournament. Maybe you should be more of an asshole, Brian, and then maybe people wouldn't want to play Magic as much.
Are you
Like,
playing the world's smallest violin for professional Magic players? Is that what you're saying?
yeah,
Yeah, it sucks, right? Like, obviously, I think in a perfect world, everyone would have liked round 10 to be on Saturday. Like, we
yeah,
understand that, and then we would be able to do the cut, and then everyone can come back and play their one round, and then play their draft. Like, obviously, that's ideal. I think they did a fantastic job of making amends for what happened, and it sucks, but at the same time, like, this is one of the Magic tournaments too that because it was so big, like when everyone heard that, we're all Magic players. We know how this works, right? You hear something and you're just like, oh, this is BS. This is ridiculous, or whatever. Or like the tournament started like
That
an hour
deck
and a half.
sucks.
Yeah, that's me. Thank you.
I hate that card.
Yeah. Or like the tournament started like 2 hours late or whatever. It was like an hour and a half to 2 hours late, and everyone's like, "These are the worst TOs in the world. How do these guys ever get a tournament?" And this tournament, there was just none of that. Everyone's
yeah.
like, "Yeah, it's gigantic. What are they gonna do?" Like for 1 month, for like 2 days, we were in the Twilight Zone, where every Magic player was like understanding about what was going on and wasn't upset. And then like one of the biggest people in the game was just so mad about like one of the situations. It was like the Twilight Zone to me. Like, what do you want them to do, man? They're doing the best they can. Like, the general populace is not even mad about it. Like, I don't know. I just thought it was like pretty reasonable.
It was just a really well-run tournament for everything they could do. Like, even for side events, like I stayed around and like basically side drafted, like fun drafted a bunch, and like a lot of judges were like super understanding when they had to like confiscate your table. They like tried to help you find somewhere else to go in the room, and just things like that. Like the tournament was really well run, despite everything that could have gone wrong and has gone wrong in the past with other organizers. It like Star City did like a fantastic job. Like even for like people would be happy if this was like a Grand Prix half the size was run this well.
Can we get back to the real question at the heart of the matter? Do you guys think the Swedish Brian Kibler would have been this mad? I mean, there's serious competition here now. Like,
It's a very, very fair question. Now, Steven, like, you are obviously one of the smartest people that I know.
Obviously.
Obvious. Actually,
should be obvious.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious because you make me feel stupid a lot. So, like, I mean, how feasible is it to you, like, because I don't really understand how this would work, but, like, how feasible is it to you to, like, do that thing that Adam talked about where, you make it so that, like, you don't have to wait forever to play, like, your next round. Like you said, like, the 8-mans, like, they should be more quickly run like a Magic line, which I agree with you. But, like, I went to school, like, for event planning, and I can't like wrap my head around a way that like this would work, but I feel like it's something that probably would work, or just like some way to like make it more feasible to like make it so that 3,000 person Grand Prix can be more easily run. Like, do you have something that like you could think like that you've thought of based off this event?
Yeah, I'll do like a 3-minute spiel real quick, like how I would organize match-wise a tournament this size that like I think makes sense. And this is like, obviously I just came up with this. I reserve the right to say later that I'm stupid. But what I would be doing is I'd be staggering round starts into at least 2 different rounds. So round 1 starts, and everyone starts round 1. And you all play your matches. And probably after 40 minutes of round 1, I would be looking to start the like first round 2. And I think there are 2 ways you can do this. One way is you already have all the pairings worked out beforehand, and people only get to start their match if both they and their like pre-designed opponent are ready to start their next match. And the other way you can do it is just pair all the people who are finished. I think that pairing all the people who are finished has some like pretty horrible implications because you can have aggro decks playing aggro decks a whole lot. So you may have to like work out some way to do that. Or you maybe just pair the people who are already finished and their opponent for the next round is finished. Because you can like already map out an entire tournament. Like if you win, you play against the winner of this match. If you lose, you play against the loser of this match, etc. You can do that all before anybody started playing. There's no reason you have to run the pairings out all at once at the end of the round. So yeah, I'd start people playing at 40 minutes in, and then I'd start the laggers behind playing when the next round would generally start. And I think that that would speed the tournament up a lot for most of the people. What it wouldn't do is speed the tournament up overall. Oh, it would. Okay, I take it back. It would speed the tournament up overall. I'm smarter than I thought. Look at me. The other thing that I would do that I think is very, very important is the whole cutting for day two thing is archaic and stupid and doesn't make any sense. You should be cutting people regularly from the tournament. You should be cutting them earlier than the evening. Like, I think the reason you do that is just logistically, if people show up to play Magic for Saturday, they want to get to play Magic all Saturday. And that's great. And if they get knocked out in round 5, in my opinion, they should go play side events and have fun. But I do not think that if you have 2,700 people in your tournament, you need to be catering to people who are 0-4 after 4 rounds anymore. I think just kick them out of the event, have them go play side events, and like get your round size down so that you can keep pairing people and get the tournament over with. Um, those are the 2 things that I would be doing. So yeah.
Alright, I want to move on from this topic because we've spent like almost 40 minutes here and I want to talk about what happened in Quebec City as well. But if you guys are interested in this, there was a somewhat interesting take in Chapin's article on Star City. You can read more about it there. And I suspect we will be having this conversation again in the future as Magic Grand Prix go forward, because I suspect we will have more and more people attending them. But moving briefly along, there was another Grand Prix in Quebec City, which was won by Nico Christensen with Naya Humans. I will put the link to the official coverage in chat, but the top 8 was 3 Jund Midrange, 2 Naya Humans, 1 copy of the Aristocrats, 1 Jund Aggro, and 1 Human Reanimator. And you can also see deck lists all the way down to the top 16. The first thing we're going to talk about is the huge proliferation of Jund. There were a ton of Jund decks in the top 16 at this event. Why do you think there was so much Jund, and where do you think Jund is going in general? Cedric, Jundas.
All right, so at the Star City Games, the 10K tournament on the day after, I wanted to play and I didn't have a deck, so these guys found me like a Jund deck splashing Angel Serenity. Which is an interesting card to be splashing. Don't judge me. I just played a deck that was handed to me. But what I could tell while I was playing this deck is that the overall strategy of the deck is basically just like a Jund strategy, which is being like mid-rangey, having Thragtusk, Huntmaster, removal spells, Farseek, whatever. It's like basically the same deck. And, you know, if I didn't have so many terrible cards in my deck, the deck was handed to me on the spot, like, I could tell that, like, the deck was actually pretty good. Like, the strategy actually felt good of what I was trying to do, which was just like kill their guys, play Thragtusk and Huntmaster. Like my guys are super hard to kill, and just like clear the road and get them dead. Like it's a super mid-rangey deck, but like you know this is different from like your other mid-range decks because like the guys are so good, and like the creature removal is like really good too. And like I didn't have Liliana in my deck, which was in my sideboard unfortunately. But like I think the overall strategy of the Jund deck is like a really strong one. You know, it can beat, obviously, any aggressive deck, any creature deck, because it's just removal spells and life gain creatures that are super hard to deal with. And like you're dogging against like Esper and probably Blue or Red game 1, but then you have cards that you can bring in, and some cards that are obviously good game 1 if you draw them, like Liliana Veil and Garrett Primal Hunter, and you can bring in more Rakdos Returns and Slaughter Games for Sphinx Revelations, and cut your crappy cards and bring in your good ones. And then your percentage in game 2 and game 3 is really good, and if you won game 1, you're probably going to win that. Because you're probably going to, wow. Wow. Your cat is awesome.
That's amazing.
On a rampage.
Yeah, cat is on a rampage. But your percentages, if you win game 1 against like one of the control decks, it seems like you're gonna win one of the sideboarded games. It sucks that like you're kind of a dog in game 1, and then you have to win both sideboarded games. But I feel like you can do that. But overall, like I'm actually like a pretty big fan of this this deck and this strategy. You know, and you know if there's anything to kind of drive that home. Owen top 8 the PT with it, and then got runner-up at the Star City tournament, and then Reed Duke is the one who made the deck for Owen. I know they tested together, and then Reed top 8 at this one. So I think there's some merit to this strategy. It seems like a good one, and I was actually kind of impressed, even though I, for God knows what reason, had Angel Serenity in my version.
Well, it just slipped into the pile. Like, it looked like the other cards. So
I ended 3 games with it in my hand, I couldn't cast it, which shocking, I know.
Shocking you could not cast this triple white card in your 3-color mid-range deck that added a 4th for it.
Huge surprise.
Yeah. But could you wolf run it? That's the real question.
Well, I had a wolf run in my deck.
Yeah. Alright, Prozac, how do you feel about Jund decks and the Jund decks here? Why were there so many? Is it a disease?
Okay, so I think the baseline of the format is all the aggression and all the absurd things you can do starting on turn 1. You see these, like, take it for example, the Naya human deck that won the tournament. Just like a ton of early 1-drops that are excellent all over the place. So a natural reaction to that is to play big life gain cards, bunch of cards that are hard to punch through. And that's in the form of Huntmaster and Thragtusk. However, you have to live until you can cast those cards, which is why you see, basically the remainder of the deck be spot removal spells. So, yeah, so I think these Jund strategy, it was like super popular when the format first rotated, when we just had Return to Ravnica. Like week 2 and 3 were full of Jund decks. And then people figured out Sphinx's Revelation. These Jund decks are super soft to Sphinx's Revelation. And so, like, you'll probably see some reactionary stuff where, like, okay, maybe the Sphinx's Revelations deck comes back and just get pounded on by these 1-drop decks. So it got a nice little, like 3-tiered meta, or 3-pronged meta game. We have Sphinx's Revelation, like, let's call it Champion of the Parish decks, and then Thragtusk decks. And Jund is by far the best Thragtusk deck, because it has access to the best removal spells, Farseek, and it doesn't try and go anything bigger than Thragtusk, really, if you look at it. So I like the Jund decks. Not my style personally, but they have a lot of, like, excellent cards and a lot of ways to interact with small creatures, for sure.
All right, Steven, do you have Jund-related thoughts?
I think that Jund is probably the best situated deck in the format right now. Not necessarily the best deck, but the best situated in that you can, like, if you show up with the right 75 cards for your Jund deck, I think you can be a favorite for any tournament. I think finding the right 75 is very difficult, but Jund, I think, has the most flexibility in tuning the best way for any metagame. I think that the best thing about Jund is that it answers Falconwrath Aristocrat fairly well. It answers Baros Reckoner fairly well. It answers Champion of the Parish and Experiment 1 fairly well. And I think that it even does a decent job of answering Unburial Rites fairly well. And I think that those are the cards that you care about in this format right now. And I don't think that the other more controlling decks do as good a job in, I think, any of those cases. I think the Jund is just better for all of the above. So I think, like, the only allure to playing a, like, real control deck over Jund right now is that you beat Jund.
Yes,
which is what it is, but yeah.
All right, so the flip side of this coin is that the only deck with islands in the top 16 was Dave Shields playing blue-white-red in 13th, I think, off the top of my head, not checking, at Quebec City. He was playing what looked like effectively Jerry's main deck with Joel Larson's sideboard, like roughly from the Pro Tour in the blue-white-red deck. Why do you guys think there was only one deck with islands, which means no Esper decks, and only one blue-white-red deck in the top 16? And do you think we will see the same or more of that going forward? Like, will we see more of those decks? Will they return? Sud?
I'm never really a big. I've never been.
I'll take that.
Whoa, easy, guy.
You don't get to play against.
What happened here? We're going in order, Prozac. Pump those brakes.
All right.
All right, guest on the show.
I
We're going in a
I
circle.
defer to you, Cedric.
I still love you, and you know more about Esper.
I don't have a circle on here.
You know a circle. What do you mean?
It's
All
sort
right.
of a
Go
square.
ahead, knock yourself out.
All right. So I think that the reason. Well, first of all, okay. So we talked about this when Jerry was on, but I don't think any of us really felt that Esper was that good of a deck, and I still don't feel like it's that good of a deck. I think I almost feel like Ben Stark like did well at the Pro Tour with that deck, just like a matter of like happenstance, and that he's good at Magic more than like anything else. That deck is like really good against blue, white, red, and like not very good against a lot of other stuff. I feel. I like a lot of people claim that the matchup against Jund is really good, and I just like think it's like pretty good game one and then like horrible after sideboard, but I could be wrong about that. As far as like blue, white, red, I mean I think this deck is like the deck that the Masters play, and then no one else. Like this is a deck that like you see Jerry do well with. Shields been playing the deck for a while. Todd Anderson like does well with it, and then like nobody else does well with it. So I don't know. I like and like obviously Joel had like the PT or whatever, but I don't know. Like I don't think the deck is that good either. It just seems like it's okay, but I think you want to be in the camp of like either beating him down with the Champion of the Parish deck or like playing a Jund deck, and then like your like blue white red deck. It doesn't seem like it's great against either one of those decks. I don't know. I could be wrong. Adam, you play more blue white red than I do, and I know you're eager to talk, so go ahead.
I am eager to talk.
Yeah, you've got the green light.
Yeah, my thing is like, thanks, Cedric. Yeah, basically, if you play an Esper deck or a blue white red deck, you don't get to play against Jund every round, and that's the only thing you want to be playing against, like actively. You can like build your deck to be good against like the beatdown decks, but like if you really want to be good against the beatdown decks, you might as well just play Jund. Yeah, I mean that's basically what I have to say about that. But like that being said, I actually like the blue white red decks without Sphinx's Revelation. You're a little bit. I played blue white red in Star City Open in Cincinnati, and I thought the deck was super good. And I leaned on the aggressive side for sure.
So are we talking like geisting people?
I geisted people out of the sideboard, but the big card for me was Boros Charm, and I had a ton of burn spells.
So like Larson's blue white red deck then, kind of?
Minus Sphinx's Revelation.
Sure.
Like I don't think you want to draw a bunch of cards just to like if you want to Sphinx's Revelation, you want to hit your land drops, kill all their guys, and Boros Charm doesn't help you do that, and Sphinx's Revelation wins the game for you. But my thing was just to like assemble 5-6 burn spells, or like get in 2 attacks with a Reckoner or something like that.
Lightning bolts assemble.
Basically, I mean, I had Searing Spears, I had a Brimstone Volley, I had Skull Cracks, things like that. It was basically a blue aggressive deck, if you will.
Sweet.
That's where I want to be in Standard. I think my deck is awesome.
Alright, Steven, would you like to reiterate why you hate all current decks with Highlands?
I will start by saying that I think that one in the top 16 is like heavily underrepresented. I don't think they're that bad, not even close to that bad. But like sort of my problem with blue, white, red anti-Golgari is that you can build it in a lot of places. You can build it super low, you can build it moderately low, you can build it sort of low, you can build it you can build it high, and all the things in between. And in all of those places, I feel like you could be playing a different deck which was better. Just like every single time. It's extremely flexible, and I feel like in every single iteration that you flex it to, there's a different archetype which does a similar thing in that range of cards and does it better. So I'm not a savant on this archetype, but that's just where I'm feeling when I'm looking at the deck lists and seeing them play.
Alrighty. I want to talk about Jund aggro briefly. I know we touched on this a reasonable amount last week. Jerry mentioned Lotleth Troll, and Shazam, we have a Lotleth Troll bearing Jund aggro deck in 4th, I think, certainly in the top 8 of Grand Prix Quebec City, and also the Mog Flunkies bearing Jund aggro deck, which we talked about a bit last week in the top 16 at Grand Prix Quebec City. So what do you guys think about the Jund flavored punching decks, and do you think we will see more of them in the future? Sad?
Um, it's kind of funny that Jerry predicted the future there with a Lotless Troll, like immediately showing up. I guess the question you have to ask yourself is: are these Jund aggro decks, be it like this Lotless Troll version or Experiment Jund, or there's any of those versions of aggressive decks? Are they better than the Champion of the Parish, like aggressive decks that are going out there that like Nico won the tournament with? And I think the answer is no. I feel like the white cards are probably better, and the human theme is probably better. So as a result, you probably want to be there instead of in the Jund variety of it. And I think like if you want to play a Jund flavor deck, you're just better off just playing the mid range / control strategy. And I think your white creatures give the beatdowns because I think those are just more tailor made to do it than the Jund creatures are. The Jund creatures aren't bad, obviously. I mean, Lotless Troll's good, Gravecrawler's good, Dread Mangler's good. A reason to be this version is because of Aristocrat, where Humans doesn't have something like that. But I don't think Humans is really interested in having 4 mana in play either. So, I don't know. We're going to get to the Human stack in a minute, but I think that's probably the better aggressive strategy of the two.
Alright, Prozac, do you have Jund related thoughts? Jund aggro related thoughts? Sorry.
Oh, the beatdown versions. I think the best card for a Jund deck is Champion of the Parish. So I would just want to be Naya. I honestly don't see that why you would want to be a Jund deck over a Naya deck. Like, I understand you get black cards or whatever, but like I think you give up too much for being Jund colors over being Naya colors. And to me, I just see it as a downgrade in the advantages that a Naya deck would give you, which is basically speed.
Alright, Steven, Jund aggro, before we go to Humans.
I'm gonna have to compare it to Humans right now. I think that the Humans deck, like you said, it's very speedy. But to me, like, I want to pick up a Jund deck, and the reason is that I enjoy playing Magic, and I think that I am served well playing Magic against my opponents. Like, I think having 4 lands in play and casting spells which cost 4 is pretty good for me. So I like the Jund lists because I think they certainly lose speed, but they gain, I think, a considerable amount of reach. I think they gain a lot of interaction, like what their creatures can do to a board state is a little more varied than just attacking. And I think they gain some decent sideboard options, which let you board into a deck which takes the game even longer. Watching Reed play over the weekend, it occurred to me that every time Reed ever plays a match of Magic, he just like does nothing, doesn't make any mistakes, and then his opponent just makes mistakes and loses. And
yeah, I mean,
like,
have you watched matches of Magic the Gathering before?
Yes, but I think Reed is like the quintessential player who does this. Every single deck he has doesn't win until his opponent punts, which is usually turn 3. So...
And you're dead. How's that case?
So yeah, I think there's like a huge advantage to be playing a Jund list over a Naya Humans list just because you get to play cards which interact and get to play them for a little bit longer.
Alright.
Can also be a disadvantage, of course.
Alright, well let's move on to talk about Naya Humans, which is of course the deck which won the tournament, and also perhaps best known as the deck which will get you dead real quick. So, Sed, I know you were bemoaning builds of Naya Humans last week, I think it was?
Yeah.
But these are not your grandpa's Naya Humans, obviously. How do you feel about the current turbo-aggressive Naya Humans deck?
So, like, the version that I wrote about 2 weeks ago and the version I was playing online to actually quite a bit of success was a lot more spread out across, like, the mana curve. I had 24 lands, I had 4 Hunt Masters, 4 Restoration Angels, some Champions, stuff like that. I wasn't as hyper-aggressive as this version is. And, I mean, this deck is going to be called Naya Humans, obviously, but this should just be called Zoo, because that's what it is. It's just a Zoo deck with 20 lands. It's got great mana. It's got giant growth in it. Which is awesome. But this is just a Zoo deck. I mean, it has 12 1-drops and Experiment 1 Champion and Boros Sleep. They're all awesome. 2 of them just become bigger immediately. It's got like the Burning Tree draws with Flint Hoof Boar and stuff like that. Frontline Medic is like a perfect way to top the curve because it makes blocking impossible. And also, like, if you ever get in the Sphinx's Revelation range or whatever, this is actually a reasonable way to go about countering it. It also counters Bonfire the Damned off the top, which is also, like, I think a huge deal for this deck. So, like, Medic actually has some like versatility in this deck where normally it's just a 3/3 idiot for 3 that pumps Champion of the Parish and Experiment 1. It actually has other text here, which is pretty nice. I mean, deck looks fantastic. It looks hyper aggressive. If you want a hyper aggressive deck that kills the opponent dead before they can get set up, then Sphinx Revelation nonsense. This is the deck that you want to be playing. Just looking at this deck list now, the first time I saw it was on my flight home, and I was like, man, this deck looks insane. Just like beating the crap out of the opponent every single game. It has 20 lands, so he's not interested in playing like Gathering Township or Wolfrun or any of that nonsense. And I mean, it's probably like a little soft to Reckoner, but it has like some help in the sideboard. It's got like Fiend Hunters and it's got Pacifism. So I think that's
God, this deck doesn't play Reckoner?
No.
I just assumed that was there.
Yeah,
that's
kind of weird.
So
that is some commitment.
What's the over/under on like amount of time before you are playing this deck, Cedric?
Tomorrow after I wake up.
Okay.
Under.
Yeah, I'll take the under. All right, Prozac, Naya Humans.
Fuck you both.
All right, so in his description of the Jund aggro decks, Steven decided that he wanted to play Magic against his opponents. And then we get to this deck, where I'm not going to let you play Magic against me. We're not going to get into this like nice back and forth. I'm just going to try and get you dead. So you've made decisions to like try and interact with your opponent, and I have tried to make those decisions you have made embarrassing by just killing you. And I'm not like getting at you, Steven. But like anybody that wants to try and like get into like some sort of like mid-range game or anything like that, this deck is just going to kick the crap out of you. So basically, I think this is like just like the baseline of the format now. And if you can't compete with this, you are in a lot of trouble. My favorite card in this deck, and I would actually love to see maybe a couple more of them, is Gruul Charm. I always wanted to see a Falter effect in this deck, and Gruul Charm seems completely insane to me.
All right,
Yeah.
Can I just say
I would
that
like
you're
to see
treading
a couple
very
more.
close to my favorite line of Gamestate that's ever been uttered, which was by Bing Luke, who said, "Oh, so you're compressing all of your mistakes in the tournament into the deck building portion." I don't know if you remember that, Cedric. That was like quite a while ago, but you were treading very close to that. So I wanted to bring that up.
I think I'm gonna make a lot of mistakes playing Jund as well. Just like to point that out. I'd like to see like 3 more Burning Tree emissaries. So like if you're taking it to F&M or something, just throw those in there.
Going up to 7, like.
Card is good. Card is
so
good.
like, when you get to turn 2 and you play 5 of them, what does your opponent do? Like,
just hold one. Don't play them all.
It's like a race. Like either
well, no,
the
that's
judges
concede
are
because
first.
you have
or
10
he's
power
dead.
in play.
Yeah, it's true. That's concede.
Just concede.
So that's game.
I'm reminded of my last PTQ constructed top 8 where my opponent cast 4 Innocent Bloods against me in his top 12 cards, and then I spent the rest of the game rooting for Innocent Blood off the top. That was my out at that point.
Healthy.
Alright, is there anything else that we want to mention from this Grand Prix? Do you guys want to talk about Human Reanimator? It did pretty well at this event.
I want to talk about it. I think that deck is like a huge, important part of this format. So yeah.
Alright. Well, why don't you start, Steven?
I like the upgrade from 2 mana 2/2 that does nothing to both the Emissary and the Informer kill.
Yeah.
Cartel Aristocrat is not okay to draw. It's just that's the way it is. If you draw, you're just like, ugh. But like with his Emissary, like at least keeps pace with their emissaries sometimes. And yeah, I would not want to play these human decks against like that Naya deck because you're just under pressure to kill people on turn 4, and that's like not easy to do. But
yeah, they said
outside
in the
of
coverage,
that, I really like the deck. I like it against everything else. Like this is maybe one way to, instead of Sphinx's Revelation, you can kill these Jund decks with Burial Rites.
They said in the coverage that your default strategy when playing Human Reanimator against Naya humans was to concede before you'd played land so they couldn't sideboard against you, which seems like maybe not where you want to be in a matchup, but
probably not the best.
Yeah,
So it was Cedric who said like before week 1 of this format that Human Reanimator was the place to be, right? Was that before week 1?
That was me.
That was you?
That was me, man.
You were so dead on. I think you're just 100% right. And I think it's a really interesting thing about the format that it's sort of another aggro deck, but it doesn't lose to any of the same cards as a normal aggro deck. But when you're building a control deck or a mid-range deck or even another aggro deck, you have to keep in mind that people are killing you with Unburial Rites in this format as well. And I think that that's awesome. I have missed combo decks so much. They are such a vital, important part of a Magic metagame, and we just haven't had them in Constructed for a long time, and now there is a viable, good one. And I think it's awesome. I think it's going to be really good for the game.
Yeah, I agree.
This was the deck I wanted to play in the Star City tournament if I would have gotten there early and actually prepared and stuff like that. I wouldn't have had the version that Quo played with, Burning Tree Emissary and Undercity Informer or whatever. But I wanted to just play this actual strategy at the tournament just because, because I do so much coverage for SCG, I just see it every single week. Everyone's just they just have no hate. And every person in the tournament's just someone else will take care of it, whatever. And then no one takes care of it, and then the Human Reanimator guy's who wants to try to take care of me? And everyone's not me. I don't want to. And then they just do well. So, you're always just going to find, people with, 2 Rest in Peace or, Cage and, Purify the Grave. And that's, embarrassing.
Put one on my sideboard. Alright, dealt with that. Next problem. What are we boarding again?
Yeah, it's embarrassing. That just doesn't do it. I don't understand. Why... either have, a bunch or just have nothing, and just if you get paired against it, you're just dead. That's fine. Instead of just, it's not like they can find their cards or something. They don't have friggin' Vamp Tutor or anything. They're just alright, 2 Purify the Graves. Chill, guy. And they're good luck to me. Good luck to you, drawing those cards and having him do something. I don't know. I always think this strategy is always just, an awesome place to go, and it's always going to be a good choice for whatever tournament you play in, because people just skimp all the time on Graveyard Hate decks. It was that way with Dredge, too. People just always skimp. I know, Prozac, you won, I know you won that tournament, that SCG, with, the Faithless Looting Dredge deck. And, I don't know how much hate you played against, but I'm assuming probably not very much.
Yeah, as the guy that is completely willing to bank my tournament on nobody trying to play the hate card for me, sometimes some people do have, just an unreasonable amount of hate, and you're drawing dead, but, that's okay. Because it gets a lot of other people is oh, they're trying to, like you said, the issue of like, oh, I want to play this fair, honest game of Magic, not this game of I need to draw my rest in peace or I'm dead. That being said, I don't think this Reanimator deck is a full-on dredge deck where like you can interact with it outside of a graveyard hate card, in my opinion. Like it's still very powerful, but like you still can like attack on barrel rights, you still can like slaughter games like the infinite combo out of it, things like that. Um, so I think this is like the type of combo deck that is really healthy. Whereas you don't have to have dedicated combo hit. Whereas like say in like Legacy or whatever, you need to like have a dedicated like show and tell hate and a dedicated Storm/Belcher hate. Like things like that if you want to, uh have game against the combo decks and you're playing like a stupid deck. Um but in standard you can interact with these human decks outside of graveyard hate cards. So it's not like I can be like, all right, here comes four recipes, and four Grafdigger's Cage, and I can't lose to Reanimator anymore. Uh, like that's not like how you want to necessarily approach it. It's like basically like a nail in the coffin if you can beat like their mid range cards too.
Sure.
Alright. Well, I think that will do it for this week's episode, so let's do shoutouts and get out, unless anyone has anything else exciting to say. Speak now or forever hold your peace. Alright, peace holding it will be. Cedric, why don't you...
I would like
No. Alright, Adam, why don't
I
you
would like
begin?
to shout out to Rufus, who looks way better on me than he does on Cedric.
It's not
Just
true.
gonna throw that out there. I'd also like to shout out the Team Rochester draft format.
Whew.
I Team Rochester
yes.
probably a half dozen times at Grand Prix Charlotte, and you should do it because it's awesome.
You think that's going to make a comeback as a competitive format? 'Cause
No.
I don't care.
I hope so. Let me tell
It's
you
still
something.
fun.
Let me tell you something about Rochester Draft. That is actually the most viewable format if you are Stephen Flavel. Nobody else. Nobody else. But for me, best format for watching.
Didn't you say that, like, in your dream world they only play the Lands Mirror or something? Like, wasn't that a thing you said?
Well, that's constructed, not limited, Adam. You have to
So
understand.
the Lands Mirror and Constructed and Team Rochester all day in Limited, and a turkey in every pot. That's your,
Yeah.
your campaign speech.
Yeah.
Alright.
Sounds like absolute hell to me. But to each their own. As far as a quick shout out from me, I'm going to be in Vegas this weekend doing Star City coverage on my birthday, which is Saturday. So I'm getting a year older. Hooray. What better way to spend it than in Las Vegas? Shooting the shit with OSIP in the booth was what I'll be doing. I'm streaming on Tuesday and Wednesday for a little bit. I'm going to a concert, and then Thursday I'm flying out and going to gamble and have some fun with the friends. So for everyone who went to Grand Prix Charlotte, I hope you guys had a lot of fun because I had a blast meeting a lot of people. And it's one of the best things that happened to Magic in a while. I'm glad it happened.
Alright, Steven?
Yeah. Shout out to Cedric. Happy birthday, Cedric.
Thank you.
Shout out to my cats. Thanks for behaving yourselves. And shout out to Star City Games. I think they knocked it out of the park with this GP, and I'm looking forward to more to come, more cross promotion, more Magic. I think that it's a really exciting thing to have just happened.
I would like to thank Adam Prozac for coming on to our show in our Glenless Hour of Need. Thank you.
He's extra secluded right now.
Exceptionally secluded. I would like to thank everyone that was at GP Charlotte, because I think more people equals more better, and people who can't see that are just being short-sighted. It's clearly awesome for everyone involved in the community. And that's about it, I think. I've been playing sort of off and on, so I might end up streaming myself playing embarrassingly badly in Standard in the future. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, thanks for watching, everyone. You want to say something?
One more thing. Shout out to Richard Hagen for like the best one-liner I've heard on Magic coverage, and I'll say some things about Richard Hagen like off the show here and there sometimes. I might do that. But he like made this pun, and it was a terrible pun. And his co-commenter said, "Yeah, you got one positive response on that pun in chat." And Rich Hagen like just instantly deadpans, "Thanks, Mom." And I lost it. Absolutely, like, still laughing. Still, that was like the best moment of the weekend for me. So congratulations.
That's good.
All right.
That's good. I like
Thanks for
that.
watching, everyone. We will be back next week. Have a good one.
Bye.
Have a good one.